Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Hello, my friends. Good evening. This is Angy Stewart from InnerLight, and we are here live in Kardec Radio. Welcome, welcome. Let me just change this so I can see if anyone joins us. Oh, I already see. Hello, Sonia. Nice to have you here. Hello, Tina. Awesome to have you both. We are studying tonight this beautiful book, Heaven and Hell. And it's a book that very few people read it. Very few people read it, because especially because of the title. They see the title, they're like, nah, I don't like it. But it's a super, super interesting book. It's divided in two parts. The first part are all Kardec's comments about the ideas from the past, how the church analyzed certain items, and how Spiritism see those items nowadays. The second part of the book that we will be studying in a few more months, it's super interesting, because these are conversations with spirits about what happened to them when they woke up, meaning when their physical body died and they woke up in the spiritual realm. So this is a book that we all should be reading to really understand it. So I'm glad that we are here, and I'm glad that we are doing this study together in a way that's sweet, that's easy, that's smooth, and it's fun to all of us. And I always have my guests that help this process to be even more fun and enjoyable to everybody. So I see also my friends here, Erica and Julio. Hello, guys. Nice to have you here. I see Mia InnerLight is studying. That's awesome. Very, very good. So while the others are arriving, I see we have a few people. If it's your first time here, if you could send a message, write anything, because then I know who you are, although I cannot see your names, but I know you guys are here. So let's just take few seconds to close our eyes, to really elevate our thoughts, so we can have like help from the spiritual beings that are with us, so to inspire us to have a better conversation. Okay? God, our Mother and Father, thank you so much for bringing us here tonight. Inspire all of us, guide us throughout this study, so we will be able to fully comprehend. We'll be able to make positive comments, questions, and we will all understand and improve as a group. Thank you so much for the presence of the enlightened spirits. And I also ask this inspiration for myself and my dear friends of tonight, that will be Nora and Teresa, so we can all be well inspired and well connected. Thank you. So be it. Very good. Very good, everybody. I hope you have your water. Look at the size of my bottle. A friend of mine gave me. So we have this gigantic bottle. I hope you have your bottle, because it can be your medication for tonight or for the week, or until we come back once more. I already explained that you can drink the water, and when it's finishing, you replenish and you do a prayer, and then it will be your blessed water one more time. Very good. Hello, Yvonne. How are you? Nice to have you here too. So let's bring my friends. Hello, Nora. How are you?
Hi, friends. Wonderful. And you?
I'm always great. Hyper, always hyper and great. And super happy to have you here again with us. Thank you.
Thanks.
And we have also Teresa. Hello, Teresa. How are you?
Hello. Hi, Mia and InnerLight. So nice to be with you. Hello, everybody.
Yeah, Teresa, Nora, you both have to come here to Miami to visit us, to visit the beautiful Miami, but also to visit me in your light. You have been
Absolutely.
with me for such a long time. I don't even. Teresa, I think, my goodness, since I left the inner enlightenment in New York. You
Yes.
joined my studies online, and Nora. I don't remember when Nora started joining too, but it's a long time. So now you guys have to physically come here. That
Absolutely. You guys sound like you have so much fun. Movie nights and
I
popcorn and
oh
pizza.
yeah, lots of activities. Yeah, it's a hyper center like me, not the typical spiritual center.
Love it. Love it.
Anyway, super happy that you both accepted to be here again. I was talking to one of our friends tonight. The chapter we are doing is actually the biggest chapter of this book. It's really big, and we couldn't finish last month. So thank you so much for coming again, and we are gonna summarize things so we can actually finish it. So it's like, okay, we will do it. We will do it. Let me just say hello to everybody else. Hello, Sandra. Nice to have you here with us. This is great. Juan, hello, Juan. Juan is my personal assistant. He always keeps track of what I'm doing. Thank you, Juan. And Julio, our dear friend, is always here too.
Hey,
Let's
Julio.
Hello.
Woo.
So, to the ones that just arrived, we are studying this book, Heaven and Hell, from Allan Kardec. It's part of the Pentateuch. And we are on chapter 7. Chapter 7. And last time we only we were only able to go until item 7. It's like they, every little item, there is so much to talk that we thought, no, we are going to be really quick. We are going to 33 items. We only did 7. So I told the girls, okay, this time we have to summarize and then we can make comments, because if we really try to make comments to each one, too many comments. Three girls that talk a lot here.
I'm a teacher, so
So I was like, okay. And one important thing, we really want to see your comments, the public, your comments, your questions, because it flourishes this conversation. So if you were new to Spiritism, if you don't understand, it's totally fine. Ask your questions. We will be happy to answer. You have 3 specialists here, and we can answer anything.
no.
So we are starting with item number 8. So I asked dear Nora to start it for us and do like a summary. And she did a little summary from the 8 to the 14. Wow, look at this.
Just to
She,
make sure. Yeah.
she's a teacher, but she's also a good student. That's very good. That's very, very good.
So
Important. So just to really giving a little starting for everybody. So the title of the chapter is the Spiritist view on the future punishment. So punishment is a difficult word for a lot of people. In Spiritism, we do not believe in punishment, but we are analyzing what the church believed in the past. So in the past was almost like there was this fearful God. So if you did something bad, there was a specific punishment for that. We understand in Spiritism there is no punishment, but there is a guilty conscience. So our conscience, whenever we do something that's not good, we know it. But what happens is that many times we hide it. We hide with our own mind. And we're like, no, I did it because of this, and this. So we kind of justify our own wrongdoings. And then we end up forgetting, but it is there. It is in our conscience. So when we go to the spiritual realm, anything we did wrong flourishes. It's like that dirty river that the bottom comes up, and there is all that garbage that has to be cleaned up. That's our conscience when we discarnate. So that's what we are going to be talking about a little bit about today. So the first portion talks about the flesh is weak, what the justifications from that time. Then we talked about the source of the spiritist doctrine of the future punishment. Then we are talking now at this moment about something very important. That's the penal code of life to come, or penal code of the future life. More or less like you did this, something will happen. What could happen? And how can we improve from this that could happen? How can we make our life better if we commit certain mistakes? So Nora will do a little summary for us, and then we are all welcome to ask questions and to make comments, including me and Teresa. And we are going to
Hmm.
this beautiful salad tonight. So, Nora, your showtime.
So, Angie, go ahead, keep talking.
Oh, gosh, no, I have to control myself because I'm a danger. I can't talk forever.
All right, and please time me if I go over. We're starting with the articles, and some of these articles we'll summarize, but we'll consolidate them together just so that we can get like an understanding, because some of them do go together. So I'm also paraphrasing them, like you said, Angie. So if you're following in the book, it might be the shorter version because of time friends. So Article 8 states that both the good and the evil are taken into account. So the biggest takeaway that the spirits here are teaching us is that even the smallest act of kindness counts. And that word small is so critical, because then we start to think about that, right? So starting as a student, like, what do we mean by small? Article 9 states that wrong acts are paid off through our existences. That's the only way we can eliminate these debts, right? But the good thing is that once the debt is paid, we never have to pay it a second time. So that's,
Hmm.
again, so here we have more hope. So then the spirits continue saying, Article 10 is super interesting. It's almost like this codependency in these situations where between the debt and annihilation. They say that what we pay or amass is distributed whether we're incarnate or discarnate. So, like in plain language, just because we die, it doesn't mean that what we did disappears. It follows us, right? Or, as they also say, sometimes we don't get to finish something. So then we continue on in another existence. So we have the stretch of time in order for us to understand. So we have these three super important articles where we start to understand the meaning of time, the meaning of the energies of like the smallness, what can I do every day, and most definitely starting to remove these dogmas that we bring with us with the religion and the internal punishment. But then it gets super interesting, and I think Angie's gonna love this, because now we start to get into kind of like the law part of all of this, right? So it says Article 11 states expiation sentencing is giving according to nature and seriousness. That's very straightforward. So whatever it was, that's what's gonna come. But Article 12 starts to really hit that depth, right? Stating the length of our sentence is not determined, and again, I'm paraphrasing, it's not determined by like a jury. We don't have this jury that's standing there and you're going to go to jail for like 30 lifetimes because of your right. It's not like that. It says it's according to its worth, which just that word itself, when we go back and talk about this, right? That's a word that is worthy of talking about. What do you mean by worth, right? So in both the punishment and the reward. Article 13, it states what God requires for the end of suffering It's a serious, effective improvement and an authentic return to the good. In other words, the spirit advocates for itself. So there is no this set of time going again. It's not about 20 lifetimes, and you have to wear like what do they wear, those GPS bracelets? And it has nothing to do with that, but it's in the spirit. And so now Articles 14 and 15 really finish this thought. It says, punishments without intention in the hands of a guilty spirit could create suffering forever. So, in essence, this is actually a really good thing that it doesn't quite work that way, right? Because we need to have the law of progress to keep us moving forward. And it says, lest above spirits in Article 15, see with materialistic lens as eternal punishment. So now I'm good. So we can recap what this all means, right? So think about this, friends. So where we're thinking here is punishment is not like the way we see it here, right? We see a law system. There's the judge, there's the jury, right? There's the lawyers, the that are defending the cases. You have the offender. We have this entire system, and I know Angie would know more than this, but we know that the jury has a lot of biases, right? A lot of stuff here in the real world. So even though they think they're exercising the law, and if we were to study this in the context of these materialistic lands, right? The law can also make mistakes. So what it's saying here is that our punishments do not have this stigma on them. Instead, it's something that is inside of us. It's something that starts to work in our favor. But what's interesting too is this idea of punishment. So older ways of punishment, which are probably working hand in hand with the religious aspect, is that we incarcerate people. So someone does something wrong, let's do first, let's start with a tooth for a tooth, right?
Mm.
So you stole something, they would cut like a hand, right? So think of it as in a spiritual perspective. It's not that way. And then, okay, well, now let's put people in jail. But then, like, even all the studies have shown that people who go to jail, for the most part, when they get out, they are due to return back, because it's not about the jail time. It's the change that a person has inside of them, like that behavior that is changed. So they have to have like this awareness of their behavior. And if we were to use some of those law concepts that we have today, imagine this now on a spiritual spectrum where it's more divine because God is in it, right? Imagining ourselves that when we go through that change, when it's inside of us, then the true healing, the true treatment begins. And that's kind of where it goes from Articles 8 to 15. Thank you.
Very good. My goodness. Teresa, she's quick.
I know. I'm nervous.
Well,
No,
we can discuss now.
it's great points, and a great food for thought. There are many items that are really important for us to have an understanding, like even in the law of society, our physical law here, depending of how you committed the crime, there are really situations that the judge will give you a smaller penalty because of how it was done, or if there were certain aspects that influence that. And if the judge does this, imagine God that's a good mother and father, so everything is seen, the whole aspect of a crime is seen. And it's very important for us to understand also, as you mentioned, it's within us the process of improvement too. Like if we did something and we repent, this is the starting point. It doesn't mean that just because you repent, that's it. Good. Now you do some 20 prayers of this or that, and you are clear, good to go.
Oh,
No,
no.
Spiritism is not like this. Repenting of something you did wrong is the first step, but you have many other steps to go through. And as Nora said, sometimes you have to go through certain things to really to leave that, to understand what you have done, to be clear of that. and you don't have to go through something similar again. But it's a whole process to make us to really be purified or something. But everything starts in our mind, repenting, like that people that killed someone, and in their minds they think that person deserved. So this is not good. Even if it was a criminal, it was a horrible thing that was done. We do not have the right of killing anyone. That person, for worse that person is, has a mother, maybe has a child. Who knows? We don't know. But we don't have the right of killing anyone. And then people are going to say, oh, okay. So if you are in a situation that this person is going to kill you, or you kill the person, so you should be killed. Many times my son asked me this question.
Mhm.
And I always tell him, it's very difficult to answer, because there are certain things that are only when you are living that you will do, or you will say, or you will go through that. Because we can say so much. Oh no, in that case I would do this and that. We love to say this when someone is telling us a story.
Mhm.
We often say, oh, but if it was me, I would have done like this and this. And then the person, oh, and yes, that's your intention, that's your idea, but maybe in the time you freeze, you're like, you can't move because adrenaline actually froze you. And somebody else who is very shy and would say, oh, that person took action, that person did something, and you end up not doing. So it's very hard for us to judge or to say what is right, because we are not living the situation. So that's one of the things that it's hard for us to say. I just want to read some of the comments here before I give to
Okay.
Teresa. So we have Juan. Juan said, progress can be slow or fast depending on the nature and the free will of the spirit. Yes, the spirit alone determines how fast or slow the progress will be. Perfect, Juan. Actually, Juan, you have to be my guest next month.
Mhm.
Yes.
Now he's panicking. He's like, oh my God. Listen to me. Listen to me. Next month, I'm going to give you the chapter. Oh, actually, you told me the chapter. You know the chapter. Yes, be prepared. So, very good. Exactly, Juan. That's it. That's it. So, Mary, hey, Mary, nice to have you here. So, Mary says, we grow so much when we learn that it is not punishment, but the lessons to be learned and put it to practice. Exactly, exactly. Lessons to be learned. We are always learning lessons day by day, and we learn a lot with our mistakes, and and sometimes we don't learn with our mistakes. Only when we are much older we finally realize that was a mistake. And to the spiritists that participate in mediumistic meetings, for example, many times we learn with the spirits, because the spirits, they come back to tell us. Many times they come full of hatred or in a lot of pain, really really like suffering going, and they tell you a story, and it's like the stories they tell us are really, oh my God, very impactating. You're like so you have a tendency to take sides when you hear, or you, oh my God, I feel so sorry for you, this is terrible, and then comes another spirit and tells you what he did to him in the previous life, and then you're like, oh my God.
Mhm.
So it's like my friend John Raphael likes to say, it's really like a soap opera, because we learn with them. We're like, oh gosh, so this happens to him, and now he's going through so much pain. I don't want this to happen to me. So we start assimilating that. You're like, wow, and but for us it's very funny, because a lot of people like to say, oh, the dad never came back to tell anything. I'm like, ooh, to you, baby, to you. The dad come back all the time to tell us lots of stories.
Oh my gosh, Angie.
Lots of stories. So quickly, so Erica said she loved your
Aw.
summary. So Mary said, well put. Now you look at it, Dora. Dora, great
Super
summary.
nervous.
So Erica said,
Mm.
but it is difficult sometimes to go through this learning process. Yes, Erica.
Ooh,
Nobody said it's easy. We know it is difficult. Like, you know, everything in life is difficult, and depending on the time we are going through, it can be more difficult. I remember when I was a teenager. Teenager are, oh my god, total drama. Teenagers are drama. The hormones, drama. So I
yes.
remember a boyfriend. He broke up with me, and I thought I was gonna die. Oh my god! There's the end of my life. Nobody ever will like to be with me. Oh my god! So much drama. So much drama. It's like crazy. And then few months, I'm not interested in that boy anymore.
Yeah.
When it is happening, we think, oh, it's death. But in many times in life it's like this. Of course there are problems that are much deeper, much more complicated. A father of a family that the wife cannot work, they have 3 kids and they have all kinds of problems, and this person lose a job, and this person is having a very hard time to get a job. That's very difficult, that's very stressful. But we can never give up. We can never give up, because things will get better. And as we know, we can be praying and waiting for the job to fall on our heads. We have to be physically active, doing things to be able to get the job, get a job. But this is a lesson for us to continue learning. So who wants a nice try? Nice try? No. What? Nice try? No.
Mm.
You're coming.
Can I
Uh,
add something, Angie?
yeah.
I just on that thought, it's not a punishment, right? It's like a situation. The first thing, oh, God is punishing like that
Mm.
us if it's happening to us. It's to remove that paradigm that we have, right? And I think that's what we're called for in this section, like these articles, and like a small act. And we go back to Article 8 where it starts off saying any small act is good enough to already start, right? Evaporating, disseminating, diminishing the other stuff that we did, and to remember to, and the first part talked a little bit about some of the hardships that we're going through. They are a consequence of our lifetimes, right? So, right? It's not to say that what we're not going through is not we feel. We know
Yeah.
Joanna J. Angeles is a great psychologist for all of us. We have to go through the emotions, but to help us to understand, because sometimes at least having some form of awareness is already a step ahead, like you said, Andy, that little light to help us in this treatment as we're moving forward and to find that hope. And in the book, in No Solar, there's this chapter 22, the hour bonus. I mean, this is all hope. And even in here, how many times that we had to work and work, and it wasn't work like us here, right? It was
Yeah.
work for the good. And it was so beautiful. They asked, well, if we accumulate so many hours, can we even use them on others? And the answer was, it's in collaboration and it's in support, right? And this mentorship that we can have, because it's almost like, oh, I've gone through something like that. I could be an example. If somebody, I'm a teacher, so you guys, I probably have a little bias, but I'm always like trying to teach. Okay, guys, I remember going through this. Just think about it, and to build that mentorship with each other so we can keep growing and moving forward and getting a lot of these our bonuses.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, but the hour bonus are great. When I think about them, it's almost like here on Earth, everybody wants to be retired. Everybody wants to be retired.
Yes.
There is a huge amount of this population, the retired beings, that get depressed because they end up missing the requirements. They end up missing having to wake up and go to a job and meet a lot of people, having a specific task. It's difficult for them. That's why to get retired is super cool. You think doing nothing, woohoo, maybe in the first weeks, but with a longer term, we all need to occupy our minds and our bodies. So we need to find tasks to work. It's important. But come on, Teresa. Your
We have, we have a question.
Question, yeah.
Let me.
It's Sandra.
oh,
During our
Mary.
current lives, what we live or go through.
Here we
our
have access
punishment.
to the tools. We need to make it easier. That's true, Mary. That's true. Sandra said, so during our current lives, what we live or go through are the punishment of bad things we did in the past lives. So, girls, you want to answer?
I mean, I always say don't take like absolutes. Whenever we go to extremes, it's really hard, right? It's like this fluid space and adaptability. I mean, the we even have brain plasticity, so we know that there's no set in stone. So I would say take plasticity. There are things that we need according to this, right? We read this. Yes, they're going to be. I wouldn't use the word punishment. That's right, Julia. I would use like a like an experience, right? We have different words today. Obviously, at that time, remember this was written back in the 1800s, so that we were in a different state. Today, we have so much literature, Sandra, that helps us to understand that it's not a punishment, but it's an experience. Some of these experiences, and when we read the next part, you will understand why the expiation, because actually your question is very valid. The expiation is super important in this three-step process that the spirits tell us about. But I also think that we have a reincarnatory plan, right? So there's also that thing on there. Like there's certain things that we as spirits have come here to grow, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's because you did something bad. There's something that you want to experience, you want to grow, and that so happens to be the experience. So just like we say in a religion to not take literal, I think it's super good for us to learn. I'm a reading teacher, so I always tell my kids, use your inference skills, deduct, apply to you as well. So I don't know if that helps, Angie.
No, it's very, very good. Sandra, it's very important to understand that there is no punishment, but there are consequences of wrongdoings. So we can be experiencing something that's painful because of some wrongdoings we did, but it doesn't mean it is a punishment. For example, if you do not study to your math test and you do not pass, you have to repeat it. And then you will feel as a punishment. It's painful. You don't want to do it again. You can't stand the math. Imagine having to do it again. But you will have to. So it is a consequence of a wrongdoing. You should have studied. You should have dedicated more time, ask help. If you couldn't do it, the thing is, like, God is really good. It doesn't make all our wrongdoings to have to be clean at once. We wouldn't be able to survive.
Like
So things
Xavier.
come little by little, and then we still feel as too much. But it's really in a much more smoother situation. And as Nora mentioned, there are so many possibilities. In Spiritism, we can never say this is happening to you because of that you did. There are so many intangibles, but it's never a punishment. It's a consequence or something that was done in this life or in previous lives. But we are never alone. We always have help, and the things get better. That's why it's so important to have a spiritist center, to have people that you can talk, that understand, that can guide us. That's why it's great to have this groups and studies. Thank you. So, Teresa, your turn.
Okay, so thank you so much. And, I'm just so glad. Thank you, Nora, because I grew up believing this man with a white beard and robe was going to be, judging me. I was going to be in front of the big court, and so it's such a relief to know that isn't what happens. It really is a relief. It calmed a lot of anxiety and fears for me learning that. So thank you so much. So they tell us that so we're talking about the penal code in the future. So it does sound like a lot of punishment and wrongs, but this is the focus on this part. It's not that Spiritism's all about that. That's just this part that we're looking at. And it's so nice that we're being reminded not to see it as punishments. And they tell us in the section that I'm summarizing that we shouldn't really see ourselves as slaves, like, we're having to be punished and we're slaves. No, we should see ourselves more as patients in a hospital, and that we are receiving, treatment for our illness that we caused ourselves, and that we should follow the prescription. And when we don't follow the prescription for the cure, we are going to experiencing even more suffering. So they say we can break down the penal code of the future into 3 principles. One is that suffering is a part of imperfection. And I was thinking about Sandra's question, that we are here, most of us here are imperfect spirits on the earth today. There's a few of us that probably aren't, but for the majority, we are imperfect spirits. So they say suffering is a part of imperfection. So if you're feeling suffering, we all mostly are, right? And then they remind us that imperfection, wrongs, have a consequence. So here they're inviting and making us aware of the law of action and reaction. Like, and someone said earlier, for every action, there's a reaction. So instead of saying, I'm being punished, it's kind of good for us to look and say, what was my involvement in what I'm experiencing right now, perhaps? And we should not forget about past lives, because maybe right now it doesn't make sense to us. And this is one of the reasons why Jesus said, if you have something against your brother or sister, reconcile now while you're on the way. Because when we come back in that next incarnation, we may not have the memory, and we just can't figure out why we can't stand so-and-so and why we have these ill feelings. And this is part of the reason. Also, the third principle then is that here's the good news, here's the beauty. We can free ourselves from our imperfections and our wrongs by using our free will. So when we come to that realization that we don't need to suffer, we don't need to keep causing ourselves so much pain, and apply our will in that way to stop doing wrongs, following the divine laws, that we can actually ensure our own future happiness. And it's so simple that it almost seems like unreal, right? This simple recipe that they're giving us is like, using our will correctly, we can avoid future punishments. And so, they start out by telling us that we are responsible for our own wrongs, okay? We're not going to be responsible for our uncle who murdered someone, or someone in our family who stole something. Now, I know people have probably heard of family constellations, and people will say, but it's my ancestry, it's my generation. And I'm not a specialist on this, but I think from what we're learning from the spirits, it's more about affinity. We're attracted to certain people, our family units. It's based on vibrations and affinities for the most part, not entirely, but for the most part. And so we can kind of see it from that sense in generational, because we're kind of at that same vibration level, kind of practicing the same thoughts, behaviors, actions. So you're not going to be responsible for something your grandmother did. But then we should think about in the book 2,000 years ago, when Publius Lentulus, the patrician, the Roman patrician, he realizes he is the reincarnation of his grandfather who murdered many people. So in that case, but it's the same spirit. So if you haven't read that book, please do. It's a beautiful book. So, but they do want to make us aware.
My favorite book ever, ever, ever,
It's a
ever,
good
ever,
one.
ever. I
It is a good one
cry.
for many
Love it.
reasons. It's a good one, but there's so many good ones. Now, but we should be aware that we do bear responsibility in the harm that if we coax or encourage wrong in others. For example, suicide is always a wrong because it's against the divine law, it's against God. And however, they warn us, if you are involved in promoting someone's suicide, driving them to the edge, pushing them, people who do this will suffer even more than the person committing suicide. So that's, I think, a very noteworthy thing for us to be aware of, that we are responsible. It's, we can say, oh, but I didn't do it. He stole it, but I just kind of prodded him along. We are responsible for that. We are. So, and it says the most common punishment. And so remember, we've already decided when we say punishment, it's actually a reaction to what we are doing or what we have done. And they said the most common punishment, are you ready? Is when one is attached to materials, when we're very much into seeking pleasure and what we can reap rewards from the world, and we're very attached to material. The most common punishment is a slow death. Because they said, as our perispirit disengages from the body, and this is molecule by molecule, just as we incarnated molecule by molecule, that this process is based on the moral evolution of a spirit. So if it's not very morally evolved, it's going to be much more attached to the world, and this process is going to be slow. And it says it creates a lot of anguish and suffering to the spirit. So this is a good thing for us to know as well. And now it says there's a common phenomena that's also considered punishment. And that is a spirit, and I think, Angie, you alluded to it in these disobsession meetings, that is a spirit that believes it's still alive, that does not recognize it has discarnated, because it still feels that physicality. And you might say, but why is that a punishment? Well, because it continues to feel the torments and afflictions of life. So like maybe feeling constantly hungry and you can't satisfy that. You can't really feel the nourishment. Feeling like people are ignoring you and you're misunderstood. And there's a great example in The Sixth Sense. That's kind of an old movie now. I'm dating myself, but in that movie, the man who discarnates and he doesn't realize he's dead, he thinks everyone's ignoring him. He's feeling quite lonely, and this is a torment to a spirit. So, yeah, we can understand that to be hard. Then they tell us that for criminals, people who have actually committed crimes, murders, rapes, and one of the torments or punishments a criminal can experience is this replaying of this crime. You see your victim, they're constantly there in your face. So that guilt, that because you did something wrong, that's a torment. And also we know this about people who commit suicide. They keep replaying. If you read the book Memoirs of a Suicide, they clearly teach us that this is one of the torments. They keep re-experiencing shooting themselves or whatever it is, however they committed suicide. So you can imagine that's very painful. So I know this sounds really like heavy and bad, but they're giving us the heads up, and also that this isn't because we're just randomly receiving these punishments. No, the reaction, the punishment, if you want to call it reaction, is equal to the crime. So they're weighted the same. So it's not like we get punished harder, and there's no favoritism. So it's not going to be like, oh, well, you were the queen, so we won't, no, we're all simple and ignorant. There's no favoritism by God. So everyone undergoes the same. And then they just give us examples, and I won't go through all of them, but, for example, somebody who was a hypocrite during their life, of punishment, or what they may experience on the other side, is that being exposed, that for the truth of who they are. Or someone who's very vain, they might, have to endure other people receiving glory that they couldn't stand, or they didn't want to acknowledge. It hits us where it hurts, so to speak, right? If we're very prideful and selfish, they say people who are very selfish may feel deserted. And we undergo the suffering that we caused others, and to that extent. So I think, I'm not going to drag us through the mud here, but I think that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Very good.
Yes.
Both of you, excellent. It's great because it brings a lot of points, and even if we didn't even finish the whole point, it's really the summary of this chapter is like this. The main thing is really to understand there are no punishments, but there are consequences of wrongdoings. So we need to understand that it's not that the Spiritism tells us, oh, you can do anything and everything is okay. It's not, okay? It's not. There are consequences. But the thing is that there is no a God or up on heaven telling, oh, Nora, you did this, now suffer. And then God likes Teresa a little bit more and say, oh, Teresa, you did the same thing, but I like you, so it's okay. No, it doesn't have it. Everybody will go through the same thing. Whatever we did, we will have to face consequences. But of course, as we are all different, maybe certain things for me will be easier to deal because it's my issue. So my issue is painful for me. So if my issue ended up with Nora, would be fine because Nora already overcame that. So that wouldn't be difficult, wouldn't be painful for Nora. But that's why we all go through different issues, and we think it's very difficult. And then sometimes a person tell you something, oh, it's very hard, I have to go through this and this, and then we think, wow, it's not that difficult, but for that person it is. For that person it is very difficult. And other times a person tells you a story that's like a nightmare, and you're like, my goodness, how this person can be smiling. Is because that person is already prepared. That person is so strong. I have seen so many interviews of people that lost everything. The world is changing so much. There are floods everywhere. It's like a catastrophe, and a lot of people lose everything, and they are grateful for being alive. So many times in Brazil, I saw this in floods in my city, in Rio. And the person lost so much, doesn't have anything else, but the person say, I am alive and I was able to save my kids, so God will provide. And this is a sign of strength. It's a lot of strength. Imagine how many thousands of people would be like, oh my God, now it's impossible, and they don't even think to be alive because they could just be dead. But they don't even think about that. They think about the material things they lost. And I'm not saying I wouldn't do that, because I think we all think, oh my God, we have to restart from zero. But we have always to think like to be thankful, because we went through a difficult test and we survived. So if we survived, it's because there is something there that we have to, we have to use. You have to improve. It's almost like I'm studying a lot about near-death experience, because it will be my next lecture next month. And lots and lots and lots and lots of the interviews I see, people always mention that the spirits told me was not my time. I had to come back because there were things I had to do. And some people, they even say you have to come back and tell others that the death doesn't exist. And they do. They remember so intensely. They like, this is my task. I changed my whole life. and now I want to talk about it. So this is it's very very beautiful. Oh, we have a, my God, look how the time flies. Isn't that amazing? The time. So let me just quickly read here. So Juan said, even though repentance is the first step toward regeneration, it is not enough by itself. Exactly. Expiation and reparation are still required. Exactly. And that may have to happen in another incarnation. Exactly, Juan. Very good. Confirming that you will be here next month. And Mary says, divine laws is our conscience. When we do wrong, it's our own conscience trying to repair, not God punishing. Yes, exactly, Mary. Exactly. That's the main point. That's the main
Mhm.
point of the whole study. God doesn't punish us. We are the ones that we have to go through it and learn through it. That's the main point. And it's this chapter is so beautiful, and it's so much. So I just would like to. I'm not even going to do the second book because this
Yeah.
chapter is so intense. I
We
just to,
still have the second part.
you have the second part to do. I'm just looking at the time, but
I
let's
think it's important. Well, it's what Juan was saying, kind of. It's just
yes.
3 steps.
So I would like if you could summarize your
Yes.
second part, and
Oh,
then
no,
we
it's super quick. And it
to
really
these
is.
two, but we have like a few more minutes, and we don't do the other book. Okay, go ahead.
It's super quick, just so that way we can leave with like closure for this part, which is the 3 steps, right? The first one is the repentance, and basically it can happen anytime. And but it's not enough, right? Because with the repentance, then we have the expiation. That's the physical and mental sufferings through the consequences of our choices, as you said, right? So it can happen in our current life, in spirit after death, or even after in another existence. But the most beautiful part is the reparation, right? That's the righting the wrong. So there is no escape, right? We're gonna come into close circle with those around us to start to repair voluntarily or by the law. But the spirits also intertwine into that we can cancel out less vibrational actions with the higher vibrational ones, right? By practicing good in compensation for vices. Always remembering, like Article 18 states, we are where we need to be. So imperfect spirits cannot inhabit harmonious worlds, while we cannot, or either vice versa, like we're in alignment, as you say. So as you're using these 3 steps processes that Juan, thank you very much, brought up, right? Understanding that those are the ones that are going to help us move along. um and then Article 19, it's the free will. We've already talked about how our free will comes into place, but I think Article 20 is so super important because it says here God never abandons us. We also have guardian angels, but we cannot expect for the guardian angels to force us, right? Remembering that the spirit progresses by its own will. So just because the law of progress applies to all of us, and we cannot do like that 3 step repentance and all these other forms of resources that we have, it doesn't mean that I'm gonna do bad things for so many centuries and then the next day it's like, oh, I'm the light. And it's a process. And just to right, that 3 step, we can imagine if we had to do that for at least a lot of the things that we do. It's the repentance, then the expiation, then the reparation. That's a process. So multiplying that by a lot of the stuff that we do, like thinking about this like in a math way, just to have an idea. Yeah, it's gonna take a while, but it works, right? That's the thing. Because God has a plan. It says here, let's let go of our dogmas that of all this punishment, but let's understand that when God allows this temporary punishment, it's because he knows that we're going to learn from it, we're going to grow, and we're going to be moving on into this beautiful moral path. That's the summary. Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you so much, Nora. Beautiful. So let me read Yvonne, and then Teresa, you can finalize your second part quickly too. So Yvonne says, while suffering is a condition of imperfection, we know that as we progress, we never go backwards through the law of progress. Exactly. Very good, Yvonne. Very good. We are always evolving. We are always learning. And, many times we progressing in one lifetime. Like we remember when we were teenagers, we did certain things and they're like, whew, no way I'm doing that thing anymore. That's over. I'm not doing that. This was a mistake and I'm over that. Now I'm working to repair that. And of course, other times we have many lifetimes to try to understand. Oh my goodness, don't do it again. Don't. I just imagine our guardian angel saying, Angela, stop.
Yeah.
My poor guardian angel has to be screaming.
The microphone.
Yes, for me to listen like tune. So Teresa.
Yes, I'll be quickly then as well. And so I think, this three-step process that Nora spoke about, thank you so much, Nora, I think is so critical to this whole penal code. I mean, and this is what I think the spirits are telling us when they say we can ensure our own future happiness. And this three-step process is a big piece of that by forgiveness. Forgiveness is huge. And not only forgiveness for others, but forgiveness for ourselves. And so they say that, what happens is when we reach this point of repentance, that's the beginning, because that gives the spirit these, when we're in these places of feeling like eternal punishment, it gives the spirit a light at the end of the tunnel to see that it's not going to be forever, that they can change and they can make repairs. But it does require our effort. So that is the use of our will. And that they also remind us that while we can do many of these processes, the repentance, the expiation, we can do them on both sides, in the spiritual realm as well as in the physical realm. However, reparation needs to be practiced during an incarnation. And they didn't say, but I suspect, so to show that we really learned the lesson, right, is that we really assimilate. Because what is this all about? It's about our evolution. It is about our progress. Just what someone said here in the chat, that it's about our progress, our evolutionary progress. One last warning is they say we should take heed, because if we postpone, expiating, if we say, oh, I'm not ready to do that, I'll wait next lifetime, they just warn us that it could be, and most likely the situation may be harder. So we really don't want to put off. And especially now, as our conscious, we're aware, as we are aware of that uh-oh feeling, because they say, we know the moment we've done something wrong, but what we will not know is we will not know the moment when we will correct it. So it is best for us to handle it right in the moment. So we can really ensure our future happiness by acting on it now. And so, and it's always good to be caught doing the good. So do the good, because if a spirit catches us doing the good, it is a good merit for us.
Yes, that's good. Doing good. Yes, that's a good way to report. Wow, very good. Both of you, excellent. Really, really touching chapter, because a lot of people don't understand it. They keep thinking about the punishment, about oh my God, I did this and this will happen. How I'm gonna go to hell forever, because this is one of the very painful things that the church imposed in the mind of so many. Like if you do something, you are gonna go to hell forever, and forever. Like, what kind of good God is that, you are punished forever? And in Spiritism, we understand that it's nothing is forever. Everything has a beginning and the middle and the end of the pain. The spirit lives forever, but the pain is not forever. The pain has a term, and this term starts with us, with our repension. That's exactly like Juan told us, the phases we have to go through. And Teresa just finally completed that. Yes, we need to go through these phases. And doing it's good to be good. You know, there's a book that says it. It's good to be good. So that's why in Spiritism it's so important to be charitable. It's so important because, for many reasons, not just because it's good to be good, but when we are doing something to somebody else, the first thing that happens is that we stop thinking about our problems and we think about somebody else. So we are trying to get out of our comfort zone and doing something for somebody else. And this is already a mindset change. A lot of people with depression, they need it. They need to be pushed to get out of their house and to go to do something. And then, you know, depending of the type of depression you have, it is very difficult. It's very difficult to get out of your house. It's very difficult to stand up. But if you are able to do it, it helps you so much. And again, when you have a group of people that think similar, that talk about the same things, that have the same understanding, it's always so much easier. It's almost like we complete ourselves. It's like I like that. Like I like to tell people, like when I talk about the mediumship, most of the people look at me like, she's nice, but she is crazy. She's nice, but she's very weird.
And you know, Angie, as you were saying about, you know, doing charity and doing good, and Kardec tells us that it is the virtue par excellence, right? Is doing charity. And what we can understand, the highest form of charity we can do is forgiveness, is to forgive another. And it begins with forgiving ourselves, is to forgive ourselves, because it's hard to forgive, it's hard to love, it's hard to forgive others if we haven't for ourselves. To free ourselves from either the rancor and the hate that leads to homicide,
Yes.
or the guilt and the remorse that leads to suicide. So, because this lack of forgiveness makes us sick. And so not only is it, you know, about karma and expiation, but it's also, it brings illness to ourselves. So it is the it is the highest form of charity that we can do. So let's remember forgiveness and to start to bring that into practice, because we can start burning karma right now. Let's burn it.
Exactly. It helps us to have a easier return in our next life. Help it so much, because imagine if we can start erasing, even if we can change the other person, but we are changing ourselves. And you know, that's a lady that she went through so much, and she always says the forgiveness is for us. They all, if they don't want to accept, it's okay, but the forgiveness is for us. It helps us to be free from that pain, from that trouble, from that horrible thing, whatever. So this is so true, Nara. And you know, people think forgiveness is forgetting what happened, and it's not. It's understanding. It's understanding, and then thinking. Listen, this happened. I cannot change the past. Exactly like Chico Xavier, the Brazilian medium, always said, we cannot change the past, but we can modify the future. And that forgiveness is this. I'm going to the front. I'm becoming a better person. I have my pains and troubles, and I am working on it. Because also, sometimes forgiveness is not automatic. It's a step by step. It's a little bit every day. Little things is easy to forgive. Big things is very painful. But you have to continue remembering what you said. I need to forgive. I need help. God help me to be in this path that I need to learn. And we are never alone. We always have help to make it.
No. And it's the beginning of us to be able to start to practice being more human and separating the criminal from the crime. Because just like Nora pointed out to us, these prison systems don't work. This doesn't work. We cannot impose transformation, forgiveness on people. It just won't work. So we're evolving. We're going to get a better system. But in the meantime, to practice separating the crime from the criminal, because we're all children of God, and no matter how evil, and I understand this can be really huge, but we still remain all children of God. Yes. So to really we don't condone the crime, but the criminal is a temporary situation. Let us not forget that Jesus came to tell us that love covers a multitude of sins. How beautiful, Mary. I think John and Mary should be the next.
Yes.
Yeah. I also think it's a good idea. You're reading my thoughts. Let's see if they agree. But
thank you so much, Angy.
Super well done. Very, very long chapter, full of details. I think it was really good. Thank you, all of you, for your comments, for your questions. We sincerely hope it was a little bit easier to digest. When we study together, it's always easier than when we are reading by ourselves, like, whoa, this is complicated. So when we are having conversations like this, it's like, aha, and it makes life much, much easier and fun. So our time is up. Nora, could you do our final prayer, please?
Here. All right. Let us close our eyes and just breathe in and out. And in that breath, let us remind ourselves that it is God's love inside of us and out. And we thank God, the spirits, our mentors, and everyone here tonight for studying together, for learning, for gaining new clarification and knowledge. Jesus, we always seek your guidance, your blessings, and your love. And tonight we leave here with more love and more joy and more peace. With that, we kindly ask a blessing for the closing of this study. Until next time, and bless us all as we continue working for the good. And so be it.
So be it.
Yes.
So beautiful. Thank
you.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. It was a blessing have you all here. Have a wonderful night. And I see you next month. And remember, if you're here in Miami, or if you are online and would like to, next Tuesday, we are going to have a lecture on sleep and dreams. So will be fun. Will be me and my friend Noah, who is a scientist. So he's going to give the science side, and I will give the spiritist point.
Bye-bye.
Have a great day, everybody. Thank you. God bless you all.
Thank you so much.